what used to be the beef farm across from where you live.
We don't do anything on the record.
No, just say.
Farm. Yeah. Where you live.
Yeah. I was thinking that this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're ready when you
Ready?
are. She's
Okay.
all ready.
All right, well, I'll call this meeting to
On the
order.
other side.
You have the
Pass,
vice chair stepping in today for Mr. Story. So I guess first order of business will be approval of the September 11th meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion, corrections? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. And so Chairman's report, learned I was stepping in a couple of days. I don't have an extensive report, but the BRE, the Business Retention Expansion Survey, and business visits are going well. We have 10 initial visits that we were doing this sort of in phases. So the initial 10 are all, well, the surveys, the initial profiles are
Their
back.
business profiles have all been
Right.
completed.
And
Yep.
then we've conducted 3 so far. I think they've gone well. I've been present for one of them. I don't know who else has been present.
That might be it, because
Okay.
Sandy and, we did Hickory Stick and Blue Heron
Okay.
in Rock Hall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
and-
great. And getting some good feedback, I think, for we can use for the next round or the
Correct.
others in this round.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, we've got 2 scheduled tomorrow. Paula has those, and then 2 next week that David has. And then we'll be sending out the others, and hopefully some different members can attend those as well.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
So the hope is,
And
I
Sandy-
think,
Sandy hadn't attended yet. She was just a,
you're a target.
yeah, she was a target.
So I think the hope is that everyone will attend at least one with a staff member and attend more if you like. But then we'll continue to roll it out.
Yep.
Any just thoughts, discussion about that? Okay.
Did everyone get the email that had, because some of the feedback we got was to make sure the questions were sent ahead of time. So the information was on there about how we would introduce ourselves, then best practices. That was for us for internally, and then externally, the why are we doing this, what are we going to do with the information, and then a little explanation of the questions and the questions so that the businesses can prepare. So starting tomorrow, like the businesses for tomorrow have already been sent that information so they can be prepared for the businesses, or sorry, for the visit, and we'll send those out ahead of time as well. But if you have any questions on those,
I didn't get that.
please
Did
let
we
me
get
know.
that?
I sent it to the entire commission.
Yeah, the email,
But I
I think
can
it was
resend it if you
yesterday
want
or
me
the day
to.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was the day before. Katie and I worked on it, yes.
They all look for it, but I don't remember seeing it, so. I
Okay.
just have
There
to-
should be 2 attachments, Judy, I don't know. if that
Okay.
might- And if you don't get it, just let me
You
know.
know, there's so much junk email these
I
days that it's hard
understand
to dig out from underneath all those other things. So let me
Yes.
just look. Okay, thanks.
And just, I think it will help us to hit some of our objectives on the strategic plan. So just looking through that recently, everybody, if you have a chance, check that out again. But I think that's pretty much it for the chairman's report, unless anybody else has anything to offer. And then I guess we will go ahead and get to our speakers. Won't keep you waiting too long. So I think first we have Bill Mackey, Director of Planning, Housing and Zoning, to give us an update.
Hi.
Hi, good afternoon.
So I am here to just update you all on commercial projects that are occurring in the county. It's been a little while. So, and sort of let you know, the big project, of course, is the revised land use ordinance. And at this point, it's been adopted, but it is not effective. The Critical Area Commission has to review it. They're going through that process. We expect them to either November or December hold their formal hearing about it, and they're also reviewing the proposed zoning map. So when all those things are reviewed and accepted, almost always with a list of changes, then we go back through a second legislative cycle to re-adopt the code and re-adopt the map with the changes that are suggested by Critical Area Commission. So that will probably be a fairly standard legislative cycle of 3 meetings, but we can't really have an effective adopted coded map until that process concludes. So we're looking at the beginning of the year for that. So that's sort of the big project. Then for us as staff, and then the sort of things that have been going on, we have a number of solar facilities. There's some community solar facilities. One's in it's on Still Pond Neck Road. One is on Peacock Corner Road, and one is on the intersection of Fairley Road and Fish Hatchery Road. Those are 1 megawatt, 5 megawatts. They're not large facilities, but some of them are going through our process, some of them are seeking preemption, and then we have a number of smaller ones. And of course, the big one is Morgneck Solar, and that just went to the Planning Commission, and Planning Commission gave preliminary approval to their site plan. So they're moving through the entitlement process. They were exempted by the PSC from our standards, but part of the agreement with the PPRP was that they will follow our landscaping standards and our other countywide solar standards as a condition of their approval by the PSC. So although the location is preempted, our zoning code doesn't allow it there, they are allowed to build there, they still have to follow all the other provisions in the code. So they are going through that process. A lot of our provisions are landscaping provisions and buffers and setbacks. Our code is loosely based on Queen Anne's code, which was developed with the industry, so they're just moving through that process. Gillespie Precast is doing an office addition. There is a new convenience store planned in Wharton. It's where the antique furniture store right along the railroad tracks is now. That building is scheduled to be, at some point, there's not a permanent that I know of, but they're going to demolish that building and then they'll build a convenience store there in Wharton. I think everyone's aware of the Everton Industrial warehouses. They're at the preliminary approval stage. There is an appeal that has been filed, and I believe that's working its way through the courts, starting that process. Great Oak Manor is looking to do a small addition to the project, a yoga studio and kitchen. They're looking, they've repurposed from their previous use to, there's a new owner, and they're looking for executive conferences, sort of trainings that would be day events. They'll certainly would have some guests, but they're not focused anymore on like wedding venues and guests. They're looking to be a retreat, and they're going through that process to get approval to become a retreat center so that they can offer different corporate-focused events. And those are the big commercial projects. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything on my 3 different lists. And that's sort of where we are. So, I used to come quarterly, but now we're doing them a little less frequently. So, and anytime anyone is interested in knowing what kinds of big projects are coming through, public hearings, we now have a page. When you go to planning and zoning as a department, go to our webpage, you look at the tabs on the left-hand side. The very top tab is, I think it's public meetings or public postings, but the very first one, you can click on it, and all the letters that we send to people in the area for projects, those notices, are all posted on that website. We post it the same day the letter goes out. So you can see all the letters that all the neighbors get for all the projects and what the meeting schedule is and when they're coming up. So that's our notice. So everybody can see those notices. Those notices align with, you'll see signs on properties when you drive by, but you don't have to drive anywhere. You can just pull up our website and see what's going on and what's the next meeting and what are those projects about. So
And Bill, that's a new tab?
that is a new tab.
Great,
Yep.
thank you.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the?
Bill, anything happening with housing developments?
Well, we have roughly 24 houses a year, right? And I know that the county is marketing the property that we own, which is in the village of Kennedyville. So those are sort of the 2 big things, but, we haven't had a subdivision here in a long time, so, in that sense. So they're usually single parcels. But Chestertown's booming, so that's in the county. They're doing
Right.
gangbusters.
I
Lots
thought
and
Rock
lots of
Hall
new
had
buildings.
something going on, too.
Probably.
Doesn't Rock Hall have some development housing planned?
They recently amended their comp plan to allow annexation, and I know they're looking at some stuff, but I don't know the details.
Okay.
But That may well be.
And is that convenience store in Wharton a chain or an independent person?
Well, I think they own one other, so it's a small business owner.
Okay, cool. And then, are you done, Paula? I have a question about the zoning text amendment process. So when we get the paper, the citizens can see it, and I don't go through the whole commissioner packet, right, all the time, but it'll say staff recommendation, and it'll just say like economic development or tourism as the rationale for approving that text amendment, right? So I'm wondering, like, how do you make that decision? And is it like, one widget sold, or do you balance it with other impacts in the county? Because, there could be negative consequences or impact on people or noise or traffic or how, so how do you weigh that, and how do we know what you considered and how you made that decision?
So if I understand the question, let me know if I'm not understanding it is. So those, generally, whenever it talks about economic development, those are goals from the comprehensive plan that we're
Understand.
drawing out because it relates to the topic. So the idea is that, and so the general idea is, right, the comprehensive plan is a coherent document, and if you meet an objective or a goal in that comprehensive code, then you're compliant with the whole code, right? We assume the code is consistent with itself. So the idea is that we look for goals that specific project would be meeting, right? Adding business diversity, expanding a local business. Those are usually the ones that get cited. So that's the process. So it's not an analysis that is pros and cons. The analysis is this project supported by the comprehensive plan in that there's a goal in the comprehensive plan that project meets?
So it just has to meet one goal, even though it could have negative consequences, just to be extreme, tremendous negative consequences, but if it meets one goal, then it gets approved?
So it has to meet all of the land use ordinance, right? So there's
Yeah.
many conditions and requirements in the zoning portion.
Right.
So, but the idea is that we do want to always look back to the comp plan and make sure that there's something in the comp plan that supports the project. But the land use ordinance is the primary way that the comp plan is implemented.
Okay.
So by meeting the zoning
Yeah.
code, you are technically meeting the comp plan, but we take an extra step to make sure that, there's you can easily, anybody who's reading it can easily see, okay, well, there's a goal about that as well. So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just worry about unintended consequences, and if they're ever considered, and then what to do
Right.
about them.
So part of the public process, as I see it, is that, we have public meetings about many of these things, and we send out letters, and there's a sign, and the idea is that there may well be impacts that we're not aware of staff. There may be something. And if you look at our staff reports, we will say, there are no known noise impacts for this project. So, but the idea of inviting the public, sending out letters, asking people to come is, part of that public process is people come up and speak, and they may identify things that we weren't aware of, and then the board has that information to help make their decision. So really, the process is, the review against the code is the beginning of a process, and the idea is you invite the public in so that other factors can be considered.
Yeah, well, I'm happy you brought up the other parties coming in, because as one of those other parties, often, we tend to get maligned by people, and it's sort of depressing. So I'm glad to hear you support that part of the process.
Absolutely. To me, the worst meeting is the one where no one attends.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of those.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And in regards to Rock Hall, I do need to reach out to Mayor Cook. We haven't gotten Rock Hall on the schedule yet, but I'll be doing that soon, so hopefully we'll get the answers to if there's things going on there with housing and other commercial projects, so glad that was brought up.
Great. Anyone else?
All right.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So next we have Tom Mogul, Town Manager of Betterton.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, good to be here. We had a planning meeting on Monday. We had our mayor and council meeting last night, and it's nice to be sitting in here today. Didn't prepare a whole lot of notes, but I wanted to give some updates and some things I think are important, especially for where we're at in this committee. We're just about finished up our comprehensive plan. And most of that comprehensive plan, and it was a real change for me. I joined Betterton in about the end of 2020. And there was some reluctance to really engage in marketing and commercial interest. Seeing where things are at now with our wastewater treatment plant and also just the expenses and maintenance for the town, utilities have gone up and so have the rates. We need more homeowners, we need more development, and we need to really push these things. One of the ideas that we had was to purchase a 30-acre plot in front of town. When you're coming in on 292, that's Still Pond Road, and you'll pass the Betterton sign. The fire department is on the left, and behind the fire department is a 30-acre tract of land. We had the idea of purchasing that property and using a small bit of it for solar to power our wastewater treatment plant to save money and also to make use of renewable energy resources. We didn't get the money. Okay, the homeowner or the property owner was a little upset that we didn't have the $500,000 to pay for it, and so he contacted a solar company. So a solar company now is the Still Pond, as Bill had pointed out, it is now as filing application to have that property turned from 30 acres to about 18 acres of solar. And it's really harmful for what we had planned. For a year and a half, we've been looking at how do we create more business, how do we develop a Main Street community, and unlock some of the resources of it with the Main Street community. Right now, Betterton doesn't have one, so we, to be able to apply for those grants, to be able to improve properties and to be able to do things that a lot of towns are able to do. We can't do that. And if this project goes through, so we're finishing up our plan. We're going to do exactly what we had intended, We're looking at sustainable tourism as an answer. There are a lot of people in Betterton that want to take care of the environment, want to protect wetlands and shorelines, and we've been able to put our money where their mouth is. We've got a great wastewater treatment plant. It has wonderful effluent that's released out into the bay. It's been recognized as being one of the best plants in Maryland. So we feel like we've put forward the effort. So we hope we get some support when we come to the solar plant. We're not against it. Again, we tried to inspire. There are many people in town that have solar, and so it's. It feels bad it comes down to that, but I think everybody has a realistic attitude about what we need to do. So the comp plan, what we're looking at as far as developing commercial, isn't about getting millions of people to Betterton. It's about attracting people who appreciate more of a quieter walk, kayaking, hiking, the vineyards and small businesses in the area. It's a really great idea when you think about coming from the Western Shore, or coming from Annapolis or from Baltimore, and not having to take along with you an umbrella, chairs, all the things that you need at the beach, to be able to be dropped off at a beautiful beach and to be able to sit in front of the water and to relax, and then at the end of the day, jump on a passenger ferry and return back. So we're really excited about the idea that we're on this list. We think it can make a big difference as far as the economy in Betterton. Historically, Betterton has really prospered and always has from traffic coming in from the bay. And I think this is one case as well. Back in the 70s, when the beach was turned back over to Kent County, Betterton was in rough shape. The community members recognized that, and they made an effort to put Rigby Bluff and other condominiums to use, together with a little less than 100 new dwelling units. But those 100 new dwelling units kind of carried Betterton for about 30 years. We need a similar effort, a concerted effort to make sure that we are meeting and paying our bills and making sure that we don't disrupt and disturbed a way of life that a lot of people all across the country really appreciate. And so that's been the effort as far as our comp plan, some of the goals that we've talked about. And a lot of people feel like, if the ferry comes, commerce will come, and that's not to unlock free market forces, but it is to bring more energy to it. As Jamie was very helpful with, we have a new restaurant in town. It's a unique restaurant. It's a unique restaurant. It's going to have 20 seats?
About 20.
20 seatings, and talking with the owner, a person would go and make the reservation, park their car and enter, and they won't have to worry about paying money or even ordering food. They just sit down and eat. And so it's kind of an artful take on food, and I think it's not really what anyone envisioned, but the person has some really lofty goals, and I think that's worth going after. As far as Marzella's by the Bay, Mr. Marzella, I don't know if you know Francis, passed away this summer. The restaurant is still going, and they've kind of redoubled their efforts to kind of keep things going. So that's been a good for the community. And I think this summer, and Rose and Jamie can follow up with this more, but it's been a very quiet economy. We've had a lot of people visit Betterton, spend a lot of money at as far as housing, as far as Airbnbs. I understand there's some places that are over $1,500 a night to stay in Betterton, and I think that effort is only going to be bolstered by a ferry system, and even the idea of having travel on the bay. We've got a survey out. I'll end on this. We have a survey going out, and we've had it out for about a week. We've had about 40 responses. Population in Betterton now is 287. Okay, in 2000, that population was 476. And I went over a business plan that said in 10 years, they wanted to have 1,000 people. Okay, so we really need to take a look at those things and find out what's not working.
Can you give me those numbers, Ann? 287 currently.
287 currently, and 2000 was 476.
2000 was 476. Okay. And
Did you have a lot of vacant properties then, or was it families that left
Thank
and
you.
single?
That's it. From what I'm seeing, there's a lot of properties that went up for sale, a lot of families, and we're seeing this a lot in rural areas throughout America. A lot of families had to sell their home and move to areas where work was easier to come by. And so, there were a number of properties that were sold and bought, probably as second and third homes or investment properties for Airbnbs. I know there was one property that, it sold right away, and they had people in there renting as Airbnb customers, literally 2 weeks later. It's good biz, To help those things out too, we are looking at Erickson Avenue. I don't know how familiar everyone is. Erickson Avenue is the thoroughfare that runs from the beach around up the hill and goes out to Howe Point Road. We're currently working on doing a complete reconstruction of that road.
Good.
Done through CDBG. It will involve, some stormwater management, but we're looking at improving the infrastructure that is, many instances 50 years old beneath it. So that's kind of, we want to make sure infrastructure, and that's a second road. We did Wheeler a few years ago. We've redone the park. We're kind of setting the table, and hopefully, those are the types of changes that, investors and as far as developers will recognize as Betterton is preparing for a bright future.
you mentioned,
Questions?
Sorry, you mentioned the 100 new homes. Do you know, what time period that was? Are we saying, because you said it was rough shape in the 80s, and then there was 100 new
Yeah.
homes?
When
The condo.
when the beach was in, I know many of you probably already know this, but, part of it was burnt down Parks and Rec had to go out there and clear these things away. But when they did, they just made a really beautiful beach. It had lifeguards out there, really nice stands, had roped off areas. And it was Rigby 1, Rigby 2, and it was Cruise Landing. Those three condominiums, made up about 87
Okay.
different
Was that
new housing
80s,
units.
90s? Do you remember?
I'm not sure
sorry.
when,
That was 80s and 90s.
yeah,
Okay,
it was late 80s, early 90s,
okay. I was just getting a time frame there, thank you.
yeah.
So, just a quick question, your comp plan, if that 30-acre parcel is not available?
Yeah.
Are there other options for expansion, or that you have planned? Or is it mostly infill or redevelopment of existing?
It would be mainly infill. There are probably two properties I know of that are on Main Street. And, those properties still have, access to water and things like that. But as far as parking, parking's always been an issue because it's a difficult issue in a town that relied on passengers getting off of ferries, But there really isn't. There are a number of neighborhood businesses. There's a daycare that's up and running now by Elizabeth Greenwell, and she's working with families that can't afford regular daycare, and she's really having a tough time because the government's not paying her, But it's there's a daycare, there's a canvas shop. There's some small businesses that are already up and down that Main Street area and all on small streets. But they're smaller businesses. They're not, ones that you could have. I mean, what we had envisioned was more of a, country store, general store, less to do with, chains and things like that, but more giving retirees a chance to open up shops that they've always wanted to open up, whether it's a coffee shop or a tea shop, or whether it's taking advantage of the traffic that is going to the beach, and also probably, tried to make a destination, as far as like, the types of activities that are going on there, But yeah, it's a great question. It's like, what happens if this doesn't go through? This is one prime area. As Bill said, it doesn't really matter what it's zoned. I mean, this is a residential 2 area. It shouldn't, that's why we make comp plans, so I develop zoning, is to have residents live here. That's the plan. Well, plan has been trumped, and we still hold out hope. It's still a primary, a priority funding area. We still have an enterprise zone. That application went through, thank you, with, last year, the year before. We're a sustainable community. We have been since they developed that designation in 2015. We have a lot of compelling reasons, I think, why someone might say that this is not a good place for a solar facility. And so, we're going to make a concerted effort to make those arguments and prepare if it doesn't, and try to prepare what we can with what we have.
What would the town have to do to accommodate the ferry in terms of docking and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I printed out, they have a good report, and I think, Jamie, you sent it to me, didn't you?
Yeah, and I've shared it with the commission, but I can share it again if we need to.
But there's a list that was
The
evaluated.
feasibility
and,
study, yeah.
We have talked to Public Works, Dan Mattson, who's been very open about getting engineers to look at the pier. As a town, our sustainability committee had Sandy Pepe from DNR come out and look at the pier, and she said it was in terrible shape. And she brought 2 engineers with her, and just how it's positioned, the boat ramp, what some of the people that were there to visit Betterton said they wanted to have more amenities. Okay. And by amenities, we're talking everything from like, if someone got off that boat, would they be able to rent a bike? Would they be able to get an umbrella? What about a towel or something like that? Basic amenities. I think they wanted to have something smaller, like a ticket booth or something like that. But, that's, how tickets are handled today is vastly different than they've ever been handled. So I think there's some things there, but generally speaking, it does call for improvements to the waterfront. And to Kent County's credit, We've had a $360 bathhouse that's been in, that's over the last 10 years, I think $260 has been spent on the steps going up to the pavilion, the walk-up pavilion.
I was just more interested in hearing from you what the town may be doing proactively
Yeah.
to address the requirements for winning a contract for ferry service.
Yeah.
Is that town property, the pier, or is it county?
Well, see, that's the, that's the difficulty, and I think that's something that we should work
Together.
better to do.
Sure.
And because, with Public Works and Parks and Rec, a lot on their plate. There's a lot to get done there. We have ideas. We're really motivated, to do things proactively, to make sure that we can have our best shot at putting a ferry service out there. But it really takes coordination, We've had some members suggest that there be a beach authority comprised of county members and residents and, officials from the town and from the county to kind of look at this, Would it be a good idea to have a sustainable consultant come out and say, hey, you're on a gold mine here, you really need to do this, this, and this, people who get paid to make the most of those areas. And, and our caution is always, like, we want to be receptive and do something that's really going to promote a sustainable economy, but we just don't want to sell out to just market interest and tear up what we already have. So, and there are consultants that specialize in addressing those sorts of issues.
Does the town have funds to pay for that?
Unfortunately, we don't. We're going to have to scramble around for legal funds to fight some of the solar issues that we're faced with.
So-
I'm curious about the solar situation. The owner is talking about leasing land to a solar company,
I
correct?
believe that's arrangement. It could be a different
That would be the
arrangement.
arrangement,
Yes.
but your arrangement contemplated the town buying the land
That's right.
and then contracting with a solar company
That's
and then purchasing the solar power from that company to run? I mean,
Yeah.
how did your plan work?
Yeah, our plan just recognized that this was an area that we would be better off as a town to have more authority in how the land is used. We wanted to create more housing, but we also wanted at least 3 acres. And we did a study using Sunrise Solar, and they said this would be enough to take care of the water treatment plant. We also had Dave Dahlstrom and a group come out from the CDBG group came out, and they saw the site, they visited, and they were like, yeah, you could have solar here. You could have a separation between the Main Street and develop a commercial area right here, and then have at least, probably 30 units,
So
available.
you were contemplating multiple uses for that piece of land?
That's right.
Not just solar?
That's right.
And that's
That's
the
what he said.
rationale for your opposition?
I don't know if it's a rationale. All I know is he bought it as an investment property, and I think it was about 7 years ago. He bought it as investment property, and when this deal fell through, he wanted to have a return on that investment.
Is it currently in the town limits?
It is. It's been in the town limits since it was annexed in 1978.
It would have been a lot cheaper back then, huh?
Yeah, well, he got a pretty good bargain price too, so
Yeah.
he wanted to
So-
double his money.
I want to just get back to something maybe more doable, either in the interim or in case this ferry doesn't come, when you talk about all that nature tourism.
Yes.
And sustainable tourism, and I think there's a real potential there. And, but you also need infrastructure for that. You need kayaks, biking, but that's a lot lower, investment. And I really think that would be a really good way to go. And if you had like a little coffee shop there or a mixed sandwich, it could really, I know it's catch-22, right? It's always the hard thing to do is you got to have something to get something, right? So, but maybe you guys could figure out how to do that and really, because it is so beautiful out there. And then, there's the hiking and you got the beach and, biking out there. Once you fix that road, it'll be really good. So I really think you should concentrate. I mean, it would be a great idea to concentrate on that and try to build that up, to bring in fewer people, but maybe a more consistent source of income.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think opening up, again, free market things, directing toward that, I think it would be wonderful. Some real basic things, and some consultants have already pointed this out, having, we've had the Hawaiian outriggers out there this year. There's been swimmers that have come out. There's been beach tennis that's been very popular. We've had a great year at the beach for its activities. And I think having, arranged monthly and weekly things, especially during the summer, is something that people who may not be here, from here, may read about and say, oh, I'm going down for that, and then it attracts people in there. And again, I don't think, I think we do a good job, and everyone's done a good job, with better getting people there. It's really paving a way that we can make a sustainable economy out of it, and I think that's the real key.
Yeah, it's tough.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just have a question back to, currently there's 287 residents there, and previously it was 476. Out of that 287, how many of those, what percentage do you think are Kent County residents that's their home, they live there, versus they live elsewhere and have property there?
It's a good question. I mean, off the top of my head, when we negotiated a contract for garbage, the number of garbage cans we needed went from 290, almost 300, to 150, 175 in the off-season. So whether that's half, whether that's slightly more than half are full-time residents, you can learn a lot about a community by their garbage. And, that's a significant fall off, and we actually got a lower rate because, we knew it was going to be that busy. And in the summer, you see a lot more people, there's.
Involvement in town activities and politics and things of that sort, when your numbers have jumped down, are you still seeing a good amount of people attending your meetings and being involved in decision-making and events and things that you're handling?
Absolutely. I feel like that's one thing that you can bet on with Betterton, that people are really involved.
Okay.
When we went over the parks for, the LPPI.
BPRP,
I always get
LRP.
Yeah.
Whole bunch
When
of
we went over
Ps.
that, I think we led the county as far as the turnout, as far as how our parks are used. And I think it demonstrated, like, the people there really are, they're into boating, they're into going to the beach, they're into sharing the beach. They want to leave it open. Most people want to have it open for everyone, and there are a lot of beaches on Chesapeake that are closing down. Sandy Point charges $5 a head to go to their beach. And it has nettles, it has jellyfish, We don't have that. But if we're going to make a, sustainable community, we've got to, approach these issues, and I think we have a good community and good, and people who know the area to make better decisions with it.
Tom, what can we do to help?
I think listening to today and realizing that, the ferry thing is a real opportunity, is a real opportunity. Being aware that there's a, significant decline in population, and I think everyone should take note of that. One thing that I feel like we really need is more people, and we noticed this during COVID, even when Barbara's by the Bay was open and Marzella's, that there was just less people, and as a community we've noticed it, there was less people to work, and I think Betterton is a great place for young people to live. I think there should be more studio apartments for young people that are affordable, and to try to develop a workforce, with a workforce first, but I think those are, some things there, but just the ideas there to recognize that, it would do some good to really bring these things to light, and, I can work on a better list for you and email you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do have one thing to add. I had it on for a staff report, but we've talked about it a lot, so let me go ahead and give an update on that. So the passenger ferry project where we are now is they have a webinar kickoff scheduled for the end of September, and we're in, sorry. October, thank you. I don't know what month it is. Because my son's getting married in less than 2 weeks, so got a lot of stuff going on up there. But Thomas definitely will be one of our participants in that group, and we'll be reaching out to others. We're trying to get some clarification now on how many groups we need and how many people, because then there will be some additional meetings in Annapolis that we'll need to attend to continue to participate in the process.
Any timeline for that?
Uh,
Decision?
The webinar kickoff is October, and then January is when they're trying to schedule the workshops to dig a little more into it.
So not till mid-next year, a decision?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, it would be some, probably 26.
The post-workshop webinar, they don't even, the date is to be determined,
Yeah.
so they don't even have a date for that yet.
Jamie, it
Yes.
strikes me that Betterton, which doesn't have a pot of money to put toward these things, would need to do some advanced footwork regardless to qualify. Are you aware of any state or federal funds that might be available, like for pier redevelopment or?
Not offhand and specifically. I mean, I know that there are, and I'm sure Tom does as well, there's DNR grants there for waterway improvement grants and things of that nature. But I guess then you come in, does the county apply or does the town apply? And that's where the county and the town would need to work together. So, but there's some things out there that we know about, but do I know offhand specifically what would work? The answer is no. But speaking of funding, I think this was another thing that, as Tom was talking about becoming a Main Street community, you need at least a part-time paid staff to be a Main Street. You can become an affiliate, which Rock Hall currently is, but the person that does the Rock Hall Main Street, it's totally volunteer. And talking to that person as well as DHCD staff, you really need a full-time person to maintain that Main Street status. So that's one of the challenges, is having that staff and having enough population. You know, you can become an affiliate, but then to go to that next level. And then the person that's currently doing it, I think she said, I got another 2 or 3 years before I really want to retire, but she's doing full-time work and not getting paid for it. So just something we need to think, and we have a lot of community members that do that. So just, we are very blessed to have such active community members.
And to go back to your question, and this has come before the commissioners, and I believe $20,000 has been approved for the engineering study. I don't know where that study is at. I know there's been some others, but $20,000 was approved for an engineering study. Now,
For the pier?
I'm sorry?
For the pier?
For examination of the pier. And, I don't know if that had, as far as the subject of that engineering study, if it was taking into consideration some of the recommendations that the ferry consultants had regarding the pier. Like this pier is, I think they want about 10 feet at the end of the pier, and ours pretty much meets that. But we have bulkheads with the iron bands that are falling apart, and other pieces that have been replaced. And there's just, we have to put it through that lens if the engineering is going to be effective as far as the ferry is concerned. We got to look at their recommendations, and any engineering company should be able to recognize those.
Have you made an effort to establish a working group, county and town, identify people and talk to the commissioners about putting something together to do that.
Yeah, and again, compliments to Dan. I know he's stepped in, and but he had some of our members from our our one group, our sustainability group, come to a meeting in September, and they were going over some of the plans there. Some of our people in those committees, they may have different opinions or different feelings about, what should go on. And there's what we can do for, what we can do. But, as far as a select committee that's committed to doing this main goal, I'd say no. I know there's a lot of people that want it, and a lot of people recognize the value in it, and it's kind of like how you get support, but then also really channel it into the, what's going on there. But the surveys coming back have been hands down. Everyone wants the ferry there, and they feel like it would be a good thing for the community.
Anything else from the commission?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
Appreciate it. And we have staff report?
Okay.
Okay.
We have Delmarva Community Transit Training scheduled next Wednesday from 10 to 11:30. That's for any community members and/or organizations that work with community members that would need the public transportation, kind of how to ride, what are the rules, that type of thing. So this is an initial training kickoff, and then we hope DCT staff and I hope to kick off then a survey as a result of that about, like, what is needed. And, one of the things that's been brought up is rides to the pantries, as well as rides to, for clothing at the Hope Community Alliance outside of Rock Hall, so things of that nature. So I'm hoping some of that will come out of the survey and the training.
It's actually on Tuesday.
Thank you. Thank you. October 15th, Tuesday. And then ribbon cuttings, we just got a couple today that I haven't been able to send out yet, but I just wanted to thank everyone that has either attended, responded, or can come out to the ribbon cuttings if possible. And I know there's lots of demands, but anytime we can, I believe the businesses really appreciate it when people show up for their ribbon cuttings and/or open houses. So look for a few more of those coming through email. Economic Development Week, we got a proclamation from the county commissioners. It's actually the week of October, I got that right, 21st through the 25th is Economic Development Week. And we got the proclamation, and we've sent that to Mita and all of that. Then there's National Apprenticeship Week coming up in November. We're working with our Department of Labor rep, and we'll probably, figure out how to tie in a few other partners with that as well. Kent County Commissioners Meeting, October 22nd at 10 o'clock. I believe it was also in the minutes, but Tom Porter will be here to talk about the CTE programs at Kent County High School and what they offer. And we're working with Brett King at Kent County High School to work on internships for the second semester for businesses. So we're trying to get some information prepared and then pushed out on social media, and it'll be in a report as to how you can contact Brett about internships so that he can post those to students as opportunities. And on the tourism side, we have attempted 2 opportunities to collaborate. The first one, he didn't get much of a response. We actually had 3 businesses respond. And then the second one, we're waiting on the results on that, but we still are trying to collaborate and push out messaging, like where we're advertising, to have more of our businesses advertise, so there's more of a Kent County presence in whatever the publication is. And then the only other thing, we had lunch at It's Masala Time. It was great, so if you haven't tried it yet, please do. He's working very hard to get all of his ducks in a row, very busy. And of course, the Starbucks is open. See lots of activity there. I've not stopped there yet, but it is open. And that's all I have unless there's questions for me.
So are you going to do anything besides the proclamation for Economic Development Week?
Not at this time, Judy, just because we're trying to nail down the business visits and get that whole process rolling. And it's, the toughest thing has been getting schedules to coordinate with
What
the
about-
business
Well,
owners.
just an article in the paper?
I mean, good question, because I talked to Will Bontrager
Yeah.
the other day, and we specifically talked about the Business Retention and Expansion Program, but also Economic Development Week as well. So I don't know what'll get published, and he had a lot of other questions too. I don't remember every topic. We talked for over an hour. So I know there will be some things published, but I don't know what or when.
Okay.
I'll just echo that it's Masala time is pretty awesome. First night, was good.
Yay, good.
All right. Unfinished business, short-term rental update?
Let me take a breath. So on that one, I don't have a ton to report. 65% of the properties that have been identified are in compliance. Means they've registered and they've paid their 2 quarters. I'm sorry, their 2 months. So we still haven't, I think, so I said 65%, 117 properties are in compliance. Sorry, my skips here. Oh, the end of the quarter, so once we get the numbers in, we're waiting on August's numbers now, final numbers, and then we'll get September's numbers in October. So that'll end the first quarter. So then we'll have a better picture of the amount of money, the number of properties, all of that stuff. So that's where we are at this time, and we're still working through the process.
And these are just related to county properties, not the municipalities?
No, this is everything. This
Oh,
is in
So like people
totality.
in Betterton?
Absolutely, yes, yes.
So what's the total number of properties saving from doing the math? You said 117 is 65% or 55%?
Yeah, I didn't get that, I didn't bring the number of the
I was
properties, so
gonna
I'll
do the
have to
math.
check that.
Was it
Yeah, if we could-
55 or 65?
Thank you, Charlie, if
She
you're
said
good with
65.
numbers.
I thought you said 65.
65%
Yeah,
of
okay.
the 117 properties identified. Wait a minute.
No, the 65% is
117 properties, there you go. So, yeah, there you go,
Right, same thing.
Total would be, Charlie.
180?
there
Yeah,
you go.
okay.
180?
I was doing this.
You did the rounding thing.
You did good.
Ish.
It's still a process. We're still working with the Office of Finance, looking at properties, identifying them, looking at different sites. We actually had, Rose and I had a conversation with the software company last week, and we found a site that we had never heard of before, so we're trying to put those, out there, like, hey, you need to be doing this one too, because this is what we're finding. So we're going to continue to work through that.
And who is making the calls to the people operating the B&Bs?
They get letters, so I don't believe we've gotten to the point where anyone is making calls. I believe this is,
They get letters from the finance department?
they get letters from the finance
And
department,
or
yes.
emails.
Yep.
And emails
Yeah,
from
if they provide an email, they can get emails. They get emails from the software company
Correct.
too, telling them that, if something's due, if a report's due or a payment's due, all of that stuff. After the third month, which is the end of the first quarter, what I'd like to be able to do is at that point then provide both lists to the towns to say, Betterton, here's your list of people that we've identified, here's your list of people that are paying, and then the town would help us with those people that aren't paying. And then, of course, the county would be responsible for the county's portion. And I have no idea how that's going to roll out, but that is what we're looking at.
So back to what Tom was talking about, do you have any idea how many Airbnbs you have in Betterton?
12 to 13.
12 to 13?
But we also have 12 cottages and homes down there as well. They separately, and I think we identified probably three or four more recently.
Additional ones, yeah.
Like 10%, well, 25%.
So will the towns get any of this money that's being collected, or is this all county?
The town gets 90% of everything that's collected. within their municipality. 10% is retained as administrative fee. That was part of this whole process. Prior, every MOU was different. Now they're all the same. So 90% goes back to the municipality, 10% stays with the county for the admin and cost of the software and part of, all of the work we're doing to identify these properties as well. So, but I like it all being the
Lots of these
same.
properties too are not within towns.
Say that one more time.
There are not, lots of them are not within towns.
Yeah, there's 103 properties in county
Okay.
that are not located within a municipality, which is the largest number. Followed by Rock Hall, then Chestertown. We can do them Betterton, and then Millington has one, and they're 100% compliant. And Galena has none within the town limits at this time.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any new business? New business, no? And how about the agenda items for the November meeting?
Forgot to look it up, but I think I remember them both. We have two, thank you, Rose. We have two presentations. John Hickman is the director of Beacon, and he'll be talking about the business sentiment survey and the results from that. And Erin Silva, who is the project manager for the Eastern Shore GIS Cooperative, she'll be talking about the Delmarva Index and the data that can be found from there as well. So those are our two guests for the November agenda.
Who is John Hickman?
John Hickman is the director of Beacon at Salisbury University, so the business program there.
All right,
Okay.
so I guess we're to public comments and announcements. Dan, you have anything you'd like to
Yay.
share? Thank you.
I'll just put a reminder out that we are launching our series of community conversations for Kent County Public Schools starting next week at Galena Elementary School at 6 p.m. We're doing World Cafe style discussions, so we'll have 5 tables set up, each discussing a different area, things like budget, our strategic plan, our facilities, and just our roadmap for the future. We really are hoping to get as many folks from the community involved in these. We have one planned for each of our school buildings to start with, and we're looking at some additional meetings at outside locations as well. I have actually left flyers in English and Spanish back on the back table there. I hope you all take a stack, hand them out to your peers, coworkers, local businesses, help us spread the word. We will be providing childcare at the elementary schools and middle school meetings as well. So,
Is there a schedule?
yes, the schedule is listed.
Okay.
And that list was also included in the last week's staff report, just if you need to go back to it, because I thought it was important for us to know when it would be great if we could have somebody at each of those meetings. So that would be awesome. But yeah, I like the idea of handing it out to the local businesses as well, so thanks for bringing those.
Yep, I've been doing some canvassing to start with, but
Great.
Like Pro Farm, I'm sure you have a staff that you could hand some of those out to with families. Same with you, Judy.
I have no staff.
But please, however you can help us spread the word, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. No one else in the audience? Okay, so I guess that's it. Anything else you want to share? or no?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion, so moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, I guess?
Aye.
All right.
I get to hide too.
Yeah, yeah.
Right on time. Jamie?
Yes.